What's up, guys? Today we have Nick Fuentes and Ryan Dawson talking about anti-white propaganda.
America is becoming a minority white country. So whites are going to be 40%, or rather less than 50% of the population by the middle of the next decade, maybe even earlier. When that happens, things are going to get much worse. And all of this anti-white grievance that you hear from Hollywood and from the media is going to become, if it's not already, hegemonic, meaning this is going to be the ideology that rules the country. So these psychos that are saying, I'm tired of these colonizers and white people and blah, 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 they're going to be teaching your kids in a minority white classroom. Yeah. They're going to be presiding over admissions at the elite universities. They're going to be the mayors of the major cities, governors of the states with the major cities. They're going to be running the country. Kamala is vice president. This is the last cycle where they needed a guy like Biden to win over whites for the left to win an election. In the future, they're not going to need whites, so they're not going to need Biden. Kamala will be the president or somebody like that. Stacey Abrams, that's our future. And so, especially at a time when whites are becoming the minority and we're imperiled by this revengeful, angry, young, militant, non-white coalition in politics, we need white identity to protect our collective interest as whites in a country that's becoming minority white. That's why I disagree.
Okay, Ryan, what do you think?
I think you have to break up the identitarian ideology of minorities too, instead of adding one. If more blacks had voted against Lori Lightfoot or Brandon, maybe they wouldn't have ended up that way. The problem is with Zionist media is pushing identitarianism in these groups and not others. They don't care about Native Americans because they're not a voting bloc, but other minorities are. But it's like you can be non-white and they still don't give a shit about you. Like they don't give a shit about any of these people. They just use it as a weapon. The same thing with like, you couldn't oppose illegal immigration without being labeled racist. They're just using this as a weapon. And I don't think, I have a question for Nick before I continue. Have you read the manifesto from Uncle Ted?
Unabomber.
Yeah.
Unabomber. Okay, so
pretty base.
Yeah, SNEAKO, you finally read it. Good. I think leftism is a type of psychology, not an ideology. It's from this raging inferiority complex. And I used to think because right now we have today's Puritans is the woke class, right? The Puritans of back in the day are accusing each other of being witches and burning each other and whatever. That wasn't because of Christianity or religion. It was because of this same psychology, and they were just using religion as an authoritative source for their own control freak behavior. And you're seeing that now. The new sacred cow of today's age is anti-racism. And so whatever they want to do, even if it's, chopping off dicks of year olds or what, all the craziest crap you can imagine, they'll couch that in, somehow I'm fighting racism or sexism. Those are the new sacred cows. And it's from a psychology, and we really have to fix that psychology. And it won't be, you can't do it with a religion or something, because they're just going to make whatever they adopt fit their needs, right? They're going to absorb whatever has the power. So back then it was the church. Now, it's this sort of secular Zionist media. They're going to use it, they're going to weaponize it and push their agenda to control other people. That's part of their deep psychological need.
The problem with America fundamentally is that the demographics are being replaced. I agree with you that structurally you have mafia control over media and to an extent banking and the government and all of that. But the thing that's going to rally the troops, it's not even so much a matter of strategy as much as it is, although that's a part of it, it's the truth. That's, to me, when you say, well, we got to fix the media, then we'll figure out what happens after, then once people have a voice, then people can talk. It's like, well, these are the ideas that we need to talk about, which is that America has an historic white identity. And insofar as that is being rejected and we're being replaced by non-whites, America is going to deteriorate and come apart and be more susceptible to domination from foreign countries. And I think, and this gets back to basics.
Doesn't that depend on which immigrants? I think if you look at Guam or Hawaii have been greatly increased by Korean and Japanese immigrants and businesses.
Do you think, though, that America becoming a minority white country is going to be better for America than if it was majority white?
No, because of the way they're doing it now. They have all these identitarians.
Is there any way that America could become minority white where America would be even the same or better?
I don't think so, because it should be, with the birth rates, would be majority white unless you're bringing in people from the third world and they bring their third world ideas with them.
Yeah,
But I would not attribute that to biology.
Well, there's two issues here. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the prosperity of the country.
Canada's very white. It's woke as hell. Portland's the whitest city in America, and it's woke as hell. It's like there's nothing intrinsic to the race that makes them resistant to being a woke. Like, so we can say that because we're on Rumble, right? So, like, yeah, like it's not. White genes are not like, oh, well, then they'll behave. Not really. Like some of the worst, most liberal, most woke people are self-hating whites. Okay, and it's because of the media. The media is the problem.
Oh, come on now. Well, okay. There's a lot of ground here to cover. And I was about to say that you have to separate it out into prosperity and then identity. I think that America would be more prosperous if it was more white than it is now. But I also think that even irrespective of that, whether you look at Portland or Canada, it's about what America actually is. And the idea is that even during the Soviet Union, even when you had a communist government in Russia, it remained ethnically Russian. And so Russia was on one side of the Soviet Union, and then Russia came out the other side of the Soviet Union. With mass immigration, whites go in, they're on one side of progressivism in America, but they're not going to come out the other end. That's the point, is that no matter how bad the ideology is, French Revolution, Napoleonic Wars.
Isn't Russia doing a lot better now than as the Soviet Union?
Yes, but the point is that it's still Russia. America bringing in such a large amount of immigration in such a short period of time, it's not going to be America. On the other side of this, if we ever get on the other side of this, is going to be a country that's unrecognizable. It's not going to look the same, sound the same, speak the same language, have the same culture, have the same genes. And so, that's really more to the point, is they're erasing America. Now, as far as why they don't like that, I think it goes all the way back to, like you said, the veracity of it notwithstanding. Let's say for the sake of argument that, and it's true, we all believe in the narrative, okay? We all believe in the narrative that's promulgated by the museums and by the government, okay?
Absolutely.
Well, this narrative is so central because it specifically has to do with these Jewish people in Europe, in America, which is to say that when they go out there and say Donald Trump is evil and he's a Nazi, well, why is that? Why did they say that Donald Trump is a Nazi? Why did they say that Donald Trump is evil because he's a Nazi? They say, well, he's like Hitler. Why is he like Hitler? Because he's what? Pro-white, a nationalist, wants a strong military, all these kinds of things. He believes in the strong gods of the society. Family, fatherland, the Volk, the nation, the people, being together, united in a common purpose. Now, he didn't say it in explicitly those terms, but, liberals could pick up what he was putting down. Now, why is Hitler evil, they say? Well, because Hitler did the Holocaust. Well, as Ryan said, dictators have done many genocides throughout history. Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, King Leopold II in Belgium. History's full of them from every place and every time. But so the narrative goes, what Hitler did was so evil specifically because of how technological and systematic it was, because they introduced technological horrors such as the train cars and the camps and the gas chambers, but also this industrial killing, which had never been seen before in human history, because you've got, of course, Industrial Revolution, they've industrialized genocide. Yeah, electric floors, terrible. It's just terrible what they did there. But now, I
wonder how they got the poison fangs in the German Shepherds. But
well, it's evil. Evil has a way, right? Now, they say that Hitler was exceptionally evil for that reason, and for that reason, they say, according to Karl Popper, according to the cultural Marxists at the Frankfurt School, according to, I forget his name, but author of Authoritarian Personality, who maybe is just tip my tongue. But they all say after World War II that what caused the Holocaust, and by the way, they never talk about the Russians that were killed. They never talk about the gypsies. They never talk about the Catholic priests. They never talk about the Polish. They never talk about Eisenhower's camps where they killed the Germans. They never talk, or the Japanese. They never talk about the rape of Nanking. They never talk about those things. They talk about the Holocaust, and they say that Hitler was evil because of the Jewish Holocaust, and that is why, in order to prevent that from never happening again, never again, that's the motto, we have to deconstruct everything that led to the Holocaust. everything that led to Hitlerism. And what led to Hitlerism? Well, a big part of it was race essentialism. What made the Jews so alien in Europe was the fact that they weren't actually a part of Europe. For a long time, they were segregated, had a corporate identity, they had their own courts, they had their own police, they had their own language. They stuck out like a sore thumb. What's more, they were against the religion of Europe. Europe was Christian, whether Protestant or Catholic, and Catholics were more anti-Jewish than the Protestants. But nevertheless, in Hitler's Germany, Jews were outsiders. In a country that is more homogeneous, in a country that has a strong culture, strong religion, strong racial identity, Jews become the alien. They become the outsider. And so this game that they were running in Europe for hundreds of years with the Rothschilds, where they send out a Rothschild to London and Vienna and Paris, and they do their business everywhere, suddenly, here in Germany, the Germans say, hey, you know what? We're going to stop that. We're going to have a country where people that are aliens are not making the decisions. They're not promulgating transsexuality like they were in the 1930s, or homosexuality. They're not going to be running this Paris peace accords bankruptcy deal over Germany. They're not going to be running the media. And I think that's a big part of why the race thing is so taboo in America, because if there was sort of this simultaneous white racial awakening as well as a Christian revival, and coupled with the awareness of what the mafia is doing, it's like, hey, the writing's on the wall. And this multi-trillion-dollar racket that they have going, where they run the IMF and the World Bank and all of that, they run the media, they wield the American military and the American taxpayer at their disposal for their interest, suddenly that all comes to an end. If people get together and say, hey, you know what? These guys aren't like the rest of us. And maybe they don't have our best interest in mind. And so I think that is fundamentally at the root of why they're canceling people, why they're censoring people.
So yeah, this is not anti-Nazi propaganda. This is anti-white propaganda. That's why they call everybody Nazis. Because they want people to not defend their own family, country, and home, so they can take over. I mean, Paris, London, Berlin, these are the major cities of white Christian European countries, and they are literally a small minority now. Even New York, the new mayor is Muslim and is literally a leftist that wants to tax white people just because they're white. What the fuck is happening? Guys, let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree or disagree, leave a like if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless.